Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of TV Time with Maggie. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Maggie, and I talk all things Latinidad, representation, and women in film and TV. If you're interested in any of these topics, consider subscribing, giving this video a thumbs up, and turning on that notification button so you won't miss any of the upcoming uploads. For this week, I wanted to make a quick video essay on my thoughts on the Disney film Cruella. Now, of course, this film has premiered in theaters and also on Disney Plus, but is right now free on Disney Plus with, of course, the subscription. So, let's talk about Cruella. We all know Cruella De Ville as the villainess from the 1961 animated Disney film 101 Dalmatian, an adaptation from the book by the same name written by Dodie Smith. In 1996, Glenn Close portrayed her in the live-action version, which is one of my favorites. In previous iterations, she's a London heiress who's fueled by greed and vanity. She wants to use the soft puppy fur to create new items in her fur fashion industry. However, this year's remake starring Emma Stone gives us a background on how she became the cruel and heartless puppy killer we all know her to be. Besides the film being a bit too long for me, I really enjoyed the music and the performances. And I want to talk a little bit more about the women in the film and how they interact with fashion and certainly the culture and social revolution of the 1970s. The period of time called forth for people like Stella, rebels, rule breakers, and individualists who express themselves but also are continuously tormented by those who value tradition and the status quo. We have a couple of characters here who don't really follow what the status quo would be, including the Baroness. Let's talk a little bit about Stella. Stella expresses her uniqueness through fashion. Though her mother, a single parent, Catherine, did try to accommodate her and fit her into a world where she wears the hat and everything to hide her personality, she was very supportive of her, even going up against the school principal just to defend her daughter's creativity and adventurous spirit. But this is the same spirit that gets her into trouble and leads her to adopt the title of Cruella, an alter ego of hers that's fueled by impulsivity. She's aggressive, but also determined. The beginning of this film reminds me a lot of the opening scenes of 2020's Mulan and Wonder Woman 1984. In these films, we have these active, brave, and curious young women who are told to hide their talent, their personality, and their unique sense of self. And we see this reflected in Cruella, or Stella, when she dyes her hair. She's constantly being told not to do something, not to be who she really is. But it's a sense of control that leads her to split into two, Stella and Cruella. And similar to the other stories of these amazing heroines like Mulan and Wonder Woman, it is a sense of self and her unique personality traits that leads her at the very end of the day into victory. I've never really been into fashion or makeup, but I noticed how in the film, similarly to the Devil's Wears Prada, we have Stella, Cruella, and also the Baroness use fashion both as shields and as armor. Especially the Baroness and Cruella, they gain respect and a voice because of what they wear and how they wear it. It's as if these clothes gives them power. And I mean, we can all relate. I think we have at least one lipstick or dress or outfit that always makes us feel our best. Let's talk a little bit about the Baroness and her power. I talked a little bit about this in my video on Mulan and Wonder Woman, how characters in general use power. But here we have this very influential woman who, yes, is at the top of her game. She's ruling this fashion empire. And she did something that it wasn't the norm of the time, but she chooses to be the head of a company instead of raising a child. Her company is her child, basically. She also does this by being very cruel to everyone around her, which ultimately leads her to her downfall. Because even though she exerts powers over others, at one point or another, you're gonna have people that stand up to you. And that's exactly what happened. The daughter that she never wants, in a twisted sense of fate, comes back and is just as ambitious and as selfish as she is. Cruella, on the other hand, could have been this crazy, evil genius And I really thought at the end I thought that she was going to either kill her mom or something like that. But we saw that her power didn't just come from within, because at this point, Cruella was a young woman who had been through a lot. So she knew what it was like to not have friends, to struggle, to be poor. She knew what it was like to steal. She knew what it was like to have friends. And it is this ultimate difference between her and the Baroness that leads Cruella to be much smarter, much stronger, much better than her mother. In the 1996 live-action film, Cruella really admires Anita, but in a much possessive way, similarly as the Baroness did to Stella, using her designs to fuel her fashion empire. In the 1996 version, Cruella is the one who is very disappointed, mad, and just disgusted at the fact that Anita chooses to be married with a man in a traditional life. And it's kind of like what ultimately leads her to have this kind of obsession with Anita and the Dalmatians, and basically ruin her life in that way. Anita here had a different role, and I wish I would have seen her more. I mean, she stood up for Stella, and she stood up to the Baroness, both in print and in person. And I think it was this ultimate odd friendship between them, which I really wanted to see them more as adults, that really made the mid-credit scene so nice, because we see that in a completely different universe from what we have seen in the previous iterations. Instead of Cruella taking away Anita's Dalmatian, this version of Cruella is the one who gifts the Dalmatian to Anita. I almost wish that Anita was the narrator and that she was the one that kind of transforms and narrates the story of Cruella, because she's the one who knew Stella from a very young age and kind of got twisted up in her story and ultimately helped her defeat the Baroness. The performances here are very strong. I mentioned this before, I think the movie is a little bit too long, but the music is everything here. I really like watching villains get another chance to retell their story from their perspective. Ultimately, I also would have loved to have seen more people of color in the film. That's always going to be one of my complaints about most films. But I really enjoyed it overall. And I think that Emma Stone does a really good job of bringing this character into a new light, and for us to see her differently as somebody that survived and that ultimately had to create this cruel persona, this mask on top of herself in order to defeat a larger evil. What are your thoughts on the film? Let me know in the comments down below. And stay tuned for another video essay coming soon. Thanks for watching.